had Rapunzel, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty. I had Kita. Screw it! That way! And the songs are great. And I immediately went and bought them. Hi guys, welcome back to another Rants video, specifically my 200 subscriber special. This is insane, guys. I don't know what I expected. I was just doing YouTube videos for my own enjoyment. I never really intended to necessarily get this much of a following. I know it doesn't seem like a whole lot compared to a lot of other people that are on this platform, but you know, for me it's a pretty big thing. So anyway, we're gonna celebrate 200 subscribers by talking about some of the shows, books, movies, and just media in general that very much shaped and inspired my childhood and where I am now. So yeah, let's just jump right in. Okay, we're gonna start with books and movies, shows and movies. We're gonna talk about some of the shows and movies. And then we'll probably talk about books, and then we'll have a few honorable mentions. So as far as movies go, there's two really big movies that were they were just my jam in when I was a kid. Treasure Planet and Atlantis: The Lost Empire. Both of these are like there was a chart with all the different like ages of Disney movies and them all categorized. I think this was experimental age of Disney, when they had Lilo and Stitch and these two and whatever else happening, and all of the very interesting storylines and very different from the general Disney princess movies. And it was probably my favorite stage of Disney. They're just great movies. Treasure Planet is wonderful because it's the story of Treasure Island. So they took a classic and they twisted it into a sci-fi fantasy movie, and it's great. It's great. We have this giant flying spaceship, literal spaceship, and it's great. And space pirates, and there's space whales, and this was also in the era where like 3D animation was coming into play, and like the 3D animation was for a lot of the smaller parts of the movie, but like bigger things happening in their surroundings. Like all of the characters and backgrounds, whatever else, they're all just the normal like 2D animation, and then we have like the whales and the other things that come in, and they're all 3D animation, and it looks good, and it's not like the Flashpoint Paradox, where it clashes so dramatically with the 2D animation. So the animation is really good. The characters are fun, and all the aliens are unique and cool, and some of them are silly, and it's just I love this movie. It's so good. It's just so great. Like the map to Treasure Planet, just this little golden sphere puzzle thing, is so cool. Everything about this movie was so cool, and it's so underrated. It's so good. The other one is Atlantis: The Lost Empire, which again, same like experimental era of Disney, and it's also great. It's just your run-of-the-mill adventure searching for Atlantis movie, but with all these qualified people and then a nerd who has all the information to get them there. And it's, again, animation is beautiful. All the characters are cool, and they're like fleshed out, and they have characters. And then Atlantis is awesome, and it has Atlantean. There's straight up a language for this movie, and it's not just like another language. It's straight up a language that they made for this movie, and it's great. I got the DVD, and there's an extra that's literally going, let's teach you a few words in Atlantean, because we made up a language for this movie. And it's so good. It's so great, and I love it. I love it. Also with Kita, who's just straight up the most underrated Disney princess ever. Like, she's not even really recognized as a Disney princess because the movie's so underrated, and that is a crime, because she's awesome. Y'all had Rapunzel, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty. I had Kita. Yeah, that was great. I also had a lot of like Lilo and Stitch, Tarzan, all of the like weirder Disney movies, I guess, as far as like they're not stereotypical Disney princess movies. I really liked all of those, and they were very much formative to how my brain works now, and it's great. As far as shows, like all of the childhood shows that I have done for my childhood favorites videos, they're all great. They were all super formative. They were all super inspirational for like how I view the world, how my brain works sometimes, how I write characters. It's like all of these things very much impact and inspire how I just live life generally, and the things that I enjoy. And it's great. And yeah, so the childhood favorites videos really cover a lot of the shows that were, you know, a big part of my childhood and like super in depth. I talked for an hour about Ben 10. Of course, in my defense, there are like technically 3 different series to go over, but still, I talked for an hour about a guy who turns into aliens. And about 45 minutes about a guy who's half ghost. So yeah. Yeah, those are all the books and movies that the shows and movies that were very, very formative to my childhood. I will probably link all the childhood favorites videos in the description. That's Young Justice, Clone Wars, Teen Titans, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Generator Rex, Danny Phantom, Ben 10. I haven't done a Phineas and Ferb video yet, but I plan on it eventually at some point, probably. If not, Phineas and Ferb was just a super enjoyable, kind of ridiculous show that I watched about little boys who can literally get away with anything because the luck of the universe is on their side. And it's just a very fun, creative thing, even though the plot repeats every single episode. And the songs are great. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the book series that are really formative for me. There are 2 that I really, really remember that were just wonderful. And the first one, the main one, is The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. The 7-book series is literally my entire childhood. Yes, I was a bookworm and I did read a lot of books, but the Chronicles of Narnia were like everything to me as a child. My mom would read them out loud to us before we could read. When we could read ourselves, we read them. We got the audiobooks from the library, which are like the best audiobooks ever. It's a specific reader and all that, and a studio and whatever else that does it, but it's just amazing. It's fantastic. They're my favorite audiobooks ever. Granted, I don't listen to a whole lot of audiobooks because I like the physical book and reading and stuff, but the Narnia audiobooks were like the best thing ever. I would literally start a disc and I'd just play it while I was going to sleep, and yeah, I usually would stay awake for over half of it, but eventually fall asleep to it, and it was just awesome. I love it so much, and my mom has a box set for them, and reading through them and having mom read them aloud and all of that, I'm very nostalgic about that specific box set. Sorry about that. And so I was walking around last stop for reasons. I think I was alone that time. And going through the book section, obviously, because cheap books are awesome, especially when you can get them in basically brand new condition for like $5. It's great. Anyway, walking through the book section, and I suddenly look at one of the bottom shelves, and I see it, and I freak out. It's the exact same box set that my mom has of the Chronicles of Narnia books, except in slightly better condition because they haven't been read like thousands of times. I flipped out, I picked them up, and I immediately went and bought them because I needed the Chronicles of Narnia books in my life, whether I'm living at home or not. So that was like one of the funnest days I had that week, because I just found the exact same box set of the Chronicles of Narnia that I literally grew up reading, and it was amazing. I love it so much. But yeah, Chronicles of Narnia was just huge for me growing up, and I love it, and it was very influential in how I write and how I see fantasy worlds and what I feel like should be in them. And oh, it's so great. I guess I should add like the Narnia movies into that. They're not as good as the books. Like, they get progressively less and less accurate and true to the essence of the books, and it's really sad. Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe movie, fantastic. So good. Not necessarily word like shot for shot from the book, which is fine because the books have too much information to fit in like an hour and a half, 2 hour movie. But it stays true to the books, and it's great, and I love it. And the casting was great. Like, the casting was not the issue in this series of movies. It was the writing got progressively further from the source material and not as great. Like Prince Caspian, the movie was still decent. Like, they added the whole siege scene, which wasn't in the books, which wasn't really a horrible addition. But it just, like, there were a lot of little things that they changed, a few things that they added, some things that they really did take away. That just, it still felt like Narnia, and it was still a decent movie, but it wasn't quite as true to the source material. And then there was Voyage of the Dawn Treader, where they said, screw it, that way! And we added a weird magic sea serpent that had weird, like, centipede legs inside, and we combined islands, and we switched up the order of the islands, and we took islands away, and we added a weird green mist thing that was sort of the overarching enemy, I guess, and we, like, added in a weird curse thing that didn't need to exist, and, like, the first time I watched was like, cool, this is whatever, that sea serpent's weird. And then I got the audiobook of that one shortly after that, went through it again and went, hang on, that's not right, these should be 2 separate islands, this one should be before that, what is happening? And so I can't enjoy Voyage of the Dawn Treader as much anymore. Nothing against the actors, like, the writing wasn't horrible, it just, like, they screwed things up and added this weird plot line that didn't make a whole lot of sense and didn't need to be there. Like, the story was great. Like, why did you need to add that to it? I don't know. But I did grow up watching the movies as well. So yeah, just Narnia in general was a very big part of my childhood. So yeah, there was that one. The second book series that I remember reading, that I absolutely love, that I need to read again, it's been too long, is Mistmantle. It's fantastic. It's so good. For those of you who have read Redwall, it's kind of a similar feel where it's talking animals and that there's no human characters. It's all animals. And it's a fun fantasy story with animals. And it's great. There's squirrels, hedgehogs, Moles and otters are the 4 main species of animal in this series, and they all live on this island that is surrounded by a barrier of mist, and everyone who has gone through the mist has never come back. And so this world is just awesome. It's so awesome having the mystery and the isolation and all of that within the world is just great. Also, animal characters, like talking animals are fun. And having them be exclusively the only characters is very enjoyable for me. And it's fun because while there's, like, they act like humans and they're basically written out as if they're just characters. They're characters like any human character would be, but there's enough hints and all of that in there so you don't forget that they're animals. Like, if you take the hints out, they're just characters. They could be human, but they made sure to add enough details that we didn't forget that they were animals, and we didn't get taken out of this world that he created of talking animals, talking mammals specifically, at least on the island in the first book. So this is a 5-book series, and it's so good. We have a royal family, a staged coup, a whole thing with people trying to seize power and drive the king mad, and prophecies and training as a knight, and all of that fun stuff. And this is just book 1. It gets better. Oh man, in book 2, we have a royal daughter that gets kidnapped by a somewhat crazy person. I'm not going to spoil a whole lot because I want people to read these series. And so the entire time they're looking for her, and that is the main thing that's happening. And then book 3, crap. I'm trying to remember what happens in what order. Book 4 is a literal war with ravens, and it's so great. And book 5 is a giant storm that finally like takes the main character out beyond the mist. And so we learn about the world outside the mist, and it's this whole journey trying to get back. Dang it! What's the 3rd book? That annoys me. I can't remember what the 3rd book was about. But it was also great. That's really bad that I can't remember it. It means it's been too long since I've read it, but it's really hard to find the book, so I don't own it yet. But yes, oh, it's so great. And I love the characters, and the plot lines are awesome. And all the different species that they start bringing in throughout the sequels is great. We get ravens, we get swans that are just the most stuck-up, bratty, arrogant douchebags alive, and it's great. Oh gosh, I love the series so much. I love it so much. It's so good and it's great, and it made me is one of the book series that made me realize that children's stories don't have to be like all happy-go-lucky, everybody lived happily ever after, and with no like consequences or anything. This was one of those series where no, children's stories can be dark. Kids can take that. They live life. They know things aren't always good. They know things don't always go your way. They know there are consequences. And that's okay. They can read about that. They can know about that. They can see these darker things, without getting too dark, obviously. There is a line. But like, they can handle more than we think they can handle nowadays. And I love it. I love it so much. So those are the main things that right off out of the gate, off the top of my head, that I thought of, because I figured that would be the truest way to do this. And then I had a few honorable mentions that I thought of afterwards when I was kind of planning out my video, as much as I do. So, honorable mentions, ones that are very memorable for me and that I really enjoyed. Shows, we had like Wizards of Waverly Place. That was a very fun show that I watched and I enjoyed it, and got me into like magic and spells, and like, I'm a fantasy nut. Exploring things like that was very fun, and I think a lot of that came from like the books that I read and these movies that I watched, and seeing how fiction can impact someone. I love it. And Wizards of Waverly Place, as ridiculous of a show as it was, still like hammered into that idea that we can find things that we relate to and learn from these fictional stories and these magical stories, and sometimes that's an even easier way to do it, is because you can show this super drastic extreme of a situation and then those extreme consequences that come from it, and so it's a more blatant display of what happens with that. Whereas with just like a normal story, with nonfiction or otherwise, where you're just, oh, there's the action they took, there are the consequences, and it's not quite as blaring, especially for a child, to see that difference and the connection even between the action and the consequences. And so that was a great thing about Wizards of Waverly Place. And then another movie, Sky High. You'll remember that movie. The movie's great. It's just genuinely great. It is the cheesiest superhero movie I have ever seen in my life, but it's fantastic. And I think that also sparked my love for superheroes and the concept of people with powers and the contrast of heroes and villains, and having this villain kid, well, sort of half villain kid, I guess, son of a villain and a hero. One, having the contrast of a character that is a son of a hero and a villain, but also having that and the almost bigotry that goes with it between everyone else in the school. They all avoid him and whatever else, and showing that just because his dad is a villain doesn't mean that he's a villain, and lots of fun stuff like that. It's such a cheesy movie, but there's some great lessons in there. So yeah, it's an honorable mention. Cheesy superhero movie. Got me pumped about superheroes and taught me not to be a kid. I'm sorry. Okay. Last honorable mention. This one is a book series. I have very, very vivid memories about this book series. It is a ridiculous one. I read this one in early elementary school because it was a beginner's reader thing. I don't know if there is anyone else out there who remembers these books. They will probably warrant their own video at some point. We're just gonna mention them here. The Rainbow Magic books. I literally had to look up what the series was called because I honestly didn't know. But there's like core memories connected to these books. Okay. These books are about two like middle school girls getting roped into helping the fairy realm that constantly gets into peril from Jack Frost and his two idiot goblin henchmen. That is the plot. And there are like 20 different series within these books. There's like the rainbow ones, the gem ones, animal ones, plant ones. There's like 6 or 7 different fairies with their specific powers related to the theme of that series within one mini-series, and then they all connect to the big series because it's the exact same girls, the exact same 2 girls throughout all of them. It's like Christy Tate and Rachel something. But it was like a black-haired girl and a blonde girl. They had little illustrations in it, and I remember them so vividly. I can picture exactly what those goblins look like. It's cool. They're actually so fun. I have seen them in Last Up and just went, it's actually very tempting, just for the heck of it, to have some of these, for like the pure nostalgia of it. It's so great. They're like this thick. They're generally like that thick, and then every once in a while she'd have like a special book, and it was like that thick, and it was the one special fairy. They didn't fit into any of the other categories, but there was the one special one, and I don't even remember if the powers were more or not. So I think it was just the special ones where she had more of a story to tell about it, but it was so good. It was kind of like watching Phineas and Ferb, where it's kind of the same thing happening over and over again, but because it's a different fairy and a different power and like a different way that they have to stop the goblins, it's still entertaining. But it feels like it feels like watching a 30-minute, like a 10-20-minute episode of Phineas and Ferb. I could probably read it in that too now, because now I'm reading these monsters, and this is like a good like 20 of those books. I could totally read a bunch of those in like one sitting, and I don't think I'd be complaining about it. They're actually really fun. So yeah, those may or may not get their own video where I go more into it about the different fairies and all that, but yeah, more magic stuff and crossover between Magic World and our world, and so because of that clash, hey, we can learn lessons from this. They were so fun. Okay, so those are off the top of my head at least, the movies, shows, and books that really were memorable or like shaped my childhood. They're all really great, and I tried not to spoil a whole lot of things, so if you've not read those book series or watched those movies, please do so. They're enjoyable. They're so fun. I don't care if they're children's books and kids' movies. They're fantastic. Enjoy yourselves. Don't limit yourself to like boring adult books because you're an adult. I don't read any adult books. I have in the last like year or two finally moved from the children's section of the library to the teens section of the library, and I still don't check out as many books from the teen section as I have from the children's section. Children's books are just great because they can still be whimsical and fun. Teen and adult books have to be all angsty and gritty and smutty, and it's not fun anymore. Anyway, yeah, those are some of my like top movie, shows, and books from my childhood. Yeah, those are my vague general thoughts on all of them. Yeah. So, thanks for 200 subscribers, guys. That's insane. Sorry for a super random, not super organized video. I didn't know what I was doing until like yesterday. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the rant. I post videos every Wednesday and Saturday, and I'll see you all next time.